Hello everyone and welcome. It's round 3 of the Dinners with Racers Continental Tire Cup. We are live here in beautiful Detroit Belle for the Cole Pern 100A race, and we are racing around with cup cars around this beautiful, very tight and twisty racetrack. My name is Marco Barbanera. Behind the cameras is Alex Simpson, and joining me in the booth is IMSA and Xfinity competition and Camping World Truck Series veteran Justin Marks. Hello, Justin. Welcome in the booth.
Thanks for having me. Should be a pretty exciting day here at Detroit. Got some unique race cars on a unique racetrack. Should be pretty exciting.
Exactly. It's going to be a great one. Out of all the races we have in the calendar, this one seems to be like the most normal one. We have had LMP ones in Bristol. We have had the Skip Barbers going around Indianapolis Motor Speedway 1 month ago. Next month we will be in Motorsport with the Indy cars at night. So this one seems to be certainly the most normal one, and still it is a very tough predicament for these drivers because these cars are very tough to control. And of course the track is narrow, it's bumpy. I don't think they're going to have quite the interesting race, especially considering that it's not very long, only 100 kilometers, and the drivers will be required to take a pit stop. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think for sure it may appear that it's the most normal of all of them, but there's a reason that they don't race stock cars on street courses, and it's just because these things are so heavy, they have so much power and hardly any tire, and so when you put them on a street course like this that's tight, they have to brake, there's slow corners, it could be quite a handful. So I think today's going to be, a real exercise in patience and some strategy, and just keeping all four fenders on the thing that is going to be pretty hard to drive an 850 horsepower stock car that weighs 3,400 pounds around these tight street circuits.
And I remember back in the days, the Nationwide Series, as it was called back then, used to race around the Montreal circuit, where they're going to have the Grand Prix later this week. And, they are tracks that can be described as, I wouldn't say identical. They are quite similar in the sense that they are very narrow, but of course Montreal, in comparison to this, especially the surface, is much more of one of a proper racetrack, whilst here, like you were saying, the bumps are going to really put these drivers to the test, especially the bump coming out of the first couple of corners, but almost everywhere you look. And, at least there in Montreal at the Jules Villeneuve circuit, you have some runoff areas somewhere. But here, apart from a couple of places, those walls are very close, and these cars are very wide. So we might have some, very tough situations on our hands. The drivers will have, of course, because it's going to be tough to pass. But I'm sure these drivers will put on a fantastic show as qualifying is underway. So yeah, we have seen many drivers involved in different kinds of competition. So let's see how they fare. This is the first road course of the season, of course, so let's see. And I'm seeing already some, Cole Pern or Martin Truex Jr. related liveries, which is absolutely nice, being that we are so close to Canada, and the name of the race, of course. So, yeah, Justin, of course, your real-life experiences will come into play today. How about those, Xfinity cars that you drove for a while? It's these cup cars are different beasts, especially with the new rule package that came into effect this year. But what can you tell about driving Xfinity cars?
Well, I've been lucky enough to do a few of those Xfinity races up at Montreal, and I'll tell you, it took us 5 or 6 hours typically to get through those races just because there was so much yellow and so much carnage. But these things they basically don't do anything well. I mean, I've driven to Detroit in a GT3 car where you've got ABS and power control and aero, it's light. But you get these things and they don't want to turn, they don't want to stop, they don't want to get the power down. So when you put them in a situation, and that's not just the cup cars, that's the Xfinity cars also, put them in a situation like this that we're seeing right now at Detroit as these guys qualify, there's just, like you said, no margin for error. It's really easy to get these things to slide around or get into the corner a little bit too deep and get axle hop. And in a place like Detroit, just like you said, it's a little bit different than Montreal in that there's really just hardly any runoff. I mean, they're qualifying right now, and they're already banging fenders and bouncing off the walls, and I think that's what we're going to see all day today. So it's going to be an exercise in patience. These guys are going to have to drive just a little bit, probably under the limit of the car for a while until they get to the end of the race, and then figure out where they can push it. But no margin for error on the street courses, and Montreal was a track that they paved and took care of during the off time of the year, but they took care of it as a racetrack because with Formula One they wanted it to race really well. Obviously, this surface at Detroit is old, and there's hardly any new pavement down. It goes through those harsh winters, and there's concrete back straightaway. We're seeing them go down right now, so it's going to be really hard for these guys to get the power down. But definitely the one that's the most patient, the one that has the most control of his car is going to end up winning this thing at the end.
Of course, yes. You had experience driving around in the Acura GT3 car around the street. I always, of course, when you do this race in the IMSA calendar, there are no GTEs because they are testing for Le Mans. But I always thought that having a sports car race around here was absolutely crazy. It's one of my favorite races of the year. But how do you feel, when you see a DPI in your mirrors trying to lap you around here? And maybe the GTD class, it's always very, very competitive. The cars are so bunched together. So how do you approach getting lapped around this particular? It's not very related to today's race, but I always wanted to ask a question, and who better than you to answer this about racing GTDs around here with these DPIs coming behind you?
Well, everywhere you go, it's everybody has to work together a little bit. And typically, what the GT3 cars can do is you can manipulate your line a little bit to make those guys pass you where you want them to pass you. And that means if they've got a run going into corner and it's going to put you in a bad spot if they try to pass you right there, you can run a defensive line and block them, make them wait. You can make them go around the outside if that's where you want them to be. And when you come to a place like Detroit, just because the confines are so much smaller, you have to be much more deliberate about those things. And what makes it a little tricky too is that the braking distances for the GT3 cars are so short because we've got ABS and so if a prototype will just clear you and get in front of you in a brake zone, you could be in a situation where you're all over the brake, you can't stop in time for them. So when you come to a place like this, they have to be patient, you have to be patient. Everybody has to work together a little bit, but there's certainly those times when you see them in your mirror and you might have to get defensive, you might have to make a block because you try to get them to pass you where you want them to pass you. Otherwise, you get in a pretty tough spot.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As we are seeing Ricky Bobby tribute livery here, the number 09 there. I think we should have the chance. I don't know if we will, but Cole Pern version of the Ricky Bobby livery.
There you go.
I think we should have maybe the chance to see the new Mustang in action if any of the drivers is running around with it. There are 4 cars today that are allowed for competition. The new Camaro, the Toyota, and of course the 2 Fords, the Mustang, which has been released by iRacing a couple of days ago, and of course the old quote-unquote Ford Fusion, which is still available on iRacing, and but of course not anymore in official competition. So see if some drivers already got their
check.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I hear someone. It could be Ryan Lewis.
Yes.
Hello,
speaking.
Ryan.
Sorry, I had some minor technical issues. Apparently my Mac is too old to pick up the microphone from my headphones. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you here, as we also have, I think, a 4th member of the booth, a dog that I hear barking in the background. We might be joined by a 5th, which is also my dog, which is right now sleeping next to me, but you never know with dogs. So,
Can
Ryan,
you hear me?
welcome in the booth, and are you ready for this?
Yes, speaking. Sorry, I had some minor technical issues.
Yeah,
apparently my
Mac
is too old to pick up the
looking
microphone from my
forward to this
headphones.
all week. It's going to be the highlight so far.
We are seeing cars qualifying. We've got 3 minutes left. Joshua Chin, who, unbelievably, I can say, former driver for my former team, which doesn't exist anymore, but still, is in the provisional pole. Christian Abate is in 2nd place, as we see other drivers trying to come through and improve their lap times. Here's another Cole Pern tribute livery or running around. This is the Martin Truex Jr. Alternate livery, so to speak, or at least inspired by it. As this one is Benjamin Cox coming towards the start-finish line. As you can see the track map there on the right, the position of each of the drivers and their initials. So not a lot of time left for these drivers to improve on their lap times. So Ryan, you raced, if I'm not mistaken, in the old prototype challenge class. Did you have the chance to race around this particular racetrack in the past?
Yeah, I did. I got a chance to race there in 2017. Didn't have a particularly auspicious first couple of opening laps there. Managed to shunt on my second lap around the circle, which was good. I wasn't quite up on just how slippery it was before anyone puts any rubber down at Belle. So I tried to follow a GTD car into one of the corners. And the lack of ABS, and I ended up on the fence, which was a good start to the weekend.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine, how tough it is to drive around here. Also, usually the weather when you come around this track is not the best. It's usually, there's good chance of having some rain. Actually, today this shouldn't be a problem, given that we have some nice weather. Only 40 seconds left until the end of the qualifying session. Then we will be racing for 100 kilometers. I saw there Toronto Maple Leafs livery, and if I'm not mistaken, it says that Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn have won a title more recently than the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, here we go. And yeah, I think that, being an Ottawa Senators fan, I absolutely agree with it, even though the Senators haven't won a title in their entire history, but that's besides the point. Always nice to have some, NHL reference, being that we are so close to Canada, as the drivers are already doing some race practice, finding the limits of their cars, especially concerning the structural integrity of their machines. And we are waiting for the drivers to complete their final laps because the qualifying time is over. And we should be ready to go in just a second. Needing the camera, yeah?
So, Justin, considering you've had the experience of, obviously all your experience of driving NASCAR and the experience of driving the Acura here, what do you think would be the biggest difference, you think, or the key to the race that all these guys are going to really have to pay attention to?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I mean, the performance of these two cars are just so different from each other that, you can really, really attack in the GT3 cars. Anything with downforce that has that little weight, and especially with the driver aids like ABS and traction control, all that, you can just attack this track as hard as you can. But you have to just exercise so much more patience when you're racing a stock car, because it's so big and heavy, and it just doesn't have enough tire. It's got too much power. So, you got to back your brake zones way up. You got to be much more careful getting power down and to save the tire and not spin the tires up off the corners. So, I think just the driving style, it's almost like to be really, really good today in this race, these guys are going to have to run like 90% and just kind of make sure they keep the car underneath them, because it's going to be a little bit of a war of attrition. And trying to get a 3,400-pound car with 800 plus horsepower around some of these super, super tight corners is just going to be patience.
So in the analog world, you don't think it would be a super viable race for Cup to go race at Belle Isle then?
I think it'd be a hell of a fun race to watch for everybody, for sure. I think it would be an amazing challenge. I think that it's been a dream. It's been a dream of mine, like for 5 years, to just think about what it'd be like to try to take NASCAR to Long Beach, or one of these, or Detroit, one of these special facilities. So I think it would work. These are professionals, but I think we'd see a lot of yellow for sure.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Detroit, certainly when I drove there in 2017, other than crashing, first couple of sessions out, you quickly realize it's one of those places that you can, it's a bit of an equalizer, right? It's like, oh, okay, if you're willing to take a few more risks, you can you can go pretty quick around here compared to the person that isn't.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
here we go with the starting grid, standing start, by the way. So let's get ready for some fun straight off the bat. Joshua Chin in pole position. Christian Abate is in second place. As you can see the grid scrolling down your screens right now, we have quite a big starting grid. I think we are up in the 30s, if not more. As you can see, most of the drivers coming from the United States, but not only from there. We are going to have, it's going to be crowded. It's going to be crowded, that's for sure. I am expecting some drivers to have some issues. Standing start, not easy. 46 drivers, so that's quite a big grid. And standing start with these cars could provide to be very, very tricky.
And
Yeah, I certainly
Holster is
think
up there by 2 seconds too, so it'll be good to watch him.
Yeah, I certainly think there's going to be some issues there. There's some fairly recognizable names from the lurking characters from the iRacing community. Aside from the emotional issues they already have, it should be interesting at turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And that bump coming out of turn 2, which cut out the pace car last year in the IndyCar race, also I think it's going to provide for some fireworks. These drivers have one fast repair available to them, so they can go to the pits and get a brand new car, but only once. And of course, with the way the fuel strategy will work, if you pit too early, you might have to stop once again. But now the countdown is over. The lights should be on your screen right now. Here we go, and the starting procedure is about to begin. 3 lights, 4, 5 lights. Oh, Joshua Chin maybe a little bit of a jump start, but we are racing into the first corner. The Team Chimera driver keeps the lead, and now behind them everyone is spraying, hoping to get a good run throughout the first corners. And it seems like everything went well, as we already have some 3 wide fighting as they head for the third corner, the first proper hard braking area of the racetrack. Cars going all over the place, so close to each other and so close to the wall. We are already seeing cars with big damage on the rear end, and a little bit of pushing and shoving, as we see. I think the first sight. Oh, Toyota is in the wall there. A pink Toyota hit the wall there, and it's back on the racing line, luckily.
No, he augured straight back into the fence there. Yeah, straight back into some severe damage, I think. See James Gutter advancing up to 21st there. He's known for some fairly severe rear damage at times.
CJ Abate is in third place. Clear driver with clear Italian origin, which makes me automatically a fan of him. Hopefully I don't jinx him, which is, usually what happens. As he's oh dear, that was the premier commentator's curse, because the number 09 straight into the fence, then backing up into the traffic and involving some other drivers, so we are already seeing some calamity. He is going to continue, but I think a visit to the pit lane must be on schedule for that car, because that's some quite severe damage. Let's go to a replay. See there in the distance, you see the Ricky Bobby-ish kind of livery. Oh wow, well, he didn't back up into the traffic. It was so hard hitting to the tire barrier that he basically bounced back, and poor Ryan Cobb couldn't do anything about it, and he is sporting some severe damage to the front end of his car. Joshua Chin has, together with Pinkerton in second place, created quite a big gap on Effner, Bean, Trask and all the others, so looking good. Of course, not a very long race, like I said, only 100 kilometers, so it's going to be quite quick. But of course, one pit stop will be required for fuel, and tires are up to the drivers. So what would you do, guys? Would you take tires, or would you risk, going with the one set, or, for the entirety of the 25 laps? Because it's not a lot of laps, even though, these cars don't have the best tires.
I think, it's so hard to pass. I think I'd rather have track position and just play some defense, maybe make my splash and go stop pretty early, get it out of the way, try to get some clear track and put some big laps down. But, Joshua Chin put a really big lap down in qualifying, but Pinkerton's catching him right now. So that's going to put him in his position where he's going to have a little bit less control over his strategy. But if I'm one of these guys, I'm stopping early, getting my pit stop out of the way, probably keeping tires on it, throwing down some big laps when I have some clear track and hoping when it all cycles through, I get the lead.
Pinkerton, fastest lap of the race, so he is really closing in on Joshua Chin there. Of course, Joshua Chin, a good road course racer, but an especially quick IndyCar oval driver here on iRacing, and always up for a fight. But really, he can excel in a variety of different racing categories, so not a surprise to see him at the front. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, oh, there's a car hitting the wall there. I think it's Conrad. See there with his number 9 machine. As also we have a Pern-Ab car, which is absolutely fantastic. Number 55 there. Contact some damage to the rear end of that car, but they live to tell the tale. I mean, some of the liveries in this series I've seen, in all the 3 races we've had so far, are absolutely fantastic. I think Ryan Lewis has been replaced by a robot. I don't know if you guys can hear the same.
Yeah, it sounds like AI.
Yeah. As Hefner goes in the pits for his first stop there from 3rd place, this promotes Bean into 3rd position. Very active.
I like that strategy for Hefner right there, because he can make his pit stop right now and he can come out with some clear track and throw some big laps down, and then when it all cycles through, he could possibly get himself in front of Pinky or Chin here when it all comes out the wash.
Tucker around, nice save. Losing some places to Schmieding and Trupiano, but it is still the day. I agree with you. The strategy could be a winning one. We just have to see if we can, because we already have some dramas. I mean, there's such a big field. We might have, some drivers who are a bit far behind and maybe can come out in some traffic, as Josh Facchini is already lapping some opponents, and the same goes, of course, for Pinkerton there, going by the number 28 car, as these two are really, right now, in a class of their own, absolutely pulling away from the rest of the field as we go on board with the number 18 car.
Yeah, he continues to try and first run maintain the gap has 3 cars and he just there prediction does have beginnings to drill back. Next was
Yeah, still I am hearing quite the robotic voice coming from Ryan there. Let's go back to the action there with you see Pinkerton is pushing really hard, but it seems, oh wow, that was a very close disaster for him. Maybe not able to close the gap on Joshua Chin. I mean, he's keeping him there, and the pit stop will be a deciding factor. I think as we see the graphics indicator, we can see how fast Josh is going through the gears.
I love that view. It really shows where Chin has the Pinky, where Pinky's got an opportunity to possibly to catch him and make a move. But being this close, I mean, Chin can't relax. He's really got to hit every corner right. He's got to hit every mark right. And just like you said, I mean, if it stays like this, the pit stop between these two guys could be the deciding factor. Who has the great lap getting in, who has the out lap that's the fastest, could make the difference, because, I mean, they're only a few tenths apart. So one little mistake on pit road could flip this order and put Pinkerton in real control of this race.
As the Maple Leafs car is sideways, good save there, but now he's under some big pressure. Also it's going to be tough for these guys to stop in their pit stall, because these cars don't have the best brakes, like you were saying earlier. So, and iRacing really requires you to hit your marks 100%, otherwise you won't be serviced. So that is going to be a decisive factor as well, and of course not getting a penalty for being too quick entering or exiting, as these cars don't have a pit limiter, and so that is an extra degree of difficulty as we are in lap 6. So the laps are really going through very quickly in this third race of the season. And I don't know about the drivers, but I'm a bit concerned about the next round, the night race at Mosport with the IndyCars, given that it's going to be tough for the drivers, but I have no idea how I'm going to be able to commentate on that. I maybe some extra settings on the monitor, something, because that is going to be a tough one for all the drivers involved and for the commentators and the cameramen. So, well, we have at least around 1 month to figure it out, as we have this beautiful number 9 car with a mixture of Japanese anime and Cole Pearns all over it. I absolutely like it. And behind him there's another Cole Pearn car. So we were promised a lot of Cole Pearn tribute liveries, and we have been, they have given them to us. So good job from the drivers. As you can see on the left side of the screen, the gaps in real time, and you can see how much of a gap the top 2 have pulled from the rest of the field.
I hope Cole's up in Michigan getting ready to practice today, watching this thing, because it's probably pretty inspirational for him, seeing an entire Grand Prix on Belle Isle with his face basically on every single car. But going back to what you said about the pit stops, when I make a pit stop in this race, I'm probably going to leave 5 or 10% margin and just make sure that I'm at speed limit, make sure I stop in the box, because the penalty for speeding or having to back up and get back in your pit box is way bigger than whatever little bit of time you're going to give up just by making sure you avoid a penalty. So it just kind of goes back to what I was saying about being conservative, making sure you don't make any mistakes. Things like are really heating up right here. It looks like all the Cole Pearn faces are starting to get kind of wrinkled.
Yeah, drivers struggling to find some racetrack. I think.
Oh dear, yeah.
That was.
Do I still sound like a robot, guys?
No, you don't.
You sound fantastic.
All right, awesome. You can hear my velvety pros once more.
Yeah, I think that Pinkerton was involved in some shenanigans with the lapped cars and lost a bunch of time. You can see now, 5.3 seconds away from Joshua Chin. He was, involved. His car seems to be okay, but he basically had to park and restart, so he lost quite a lot of time. But we don't know. Of course, the same could be true in a few laps for Joshua. He might have some. It's so tough to run around the lapped cars around here, so. Of course, that is not ideal for Pinkerton, but he might have those seconds back later down the road, as we are in the 8th lap of the race, and in your cameras right now is the 77 of David Trask, and now the 37 of Shane Burke, and following closely behind him is the 78, the aptly numbered car there of Cox, and then it's Foddle and Christian James Bate. Tony Jones in P9, and rounding up the top 10, Garrett Conrad is, I think, the winner of the race in Bristol with the LMP1s.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that contact had too much of an effect on Pinkerton's actual race position there. Him and Chin were just smashing the field so badly that he's still in second place. I mean, ideally you want to try and hit the leader rather than traffic, but we'll have to see what happens later on.
So we are approaching the halfway mark of the race, 4 or 5 laps away, as we are on board with Garrett Conrad, as you can see from his rear bumper, and now we are switching to Dean Moll. He's fighting with Hefner there, side by side almost, as they are all sorts of sideways, trying to put the power down as quickly as possible on this, let's call it backstretch, even though it is not, but it's, I think, the longest section of the track where you can really put the hammer down and try to get a good run. But you can see the way he slid coming out of the corner. Dean Mulder wasn't then able to get a good run coming out. I see almost like a negged version of Cole Pearn's face on that particular race car.
Kind of like Carrot Top on there.
Yeah, it's like if somebody had cloned Cole Perrin, and that's what came out of the cloning tank immediately before they put a wig on it.
Yeah, it might
So
have been
Justin,
malfunction.
actually, I just want, with your experience in NASCAR, and I mean, there's so many stories about NASCAR and so much history to it. Is there any truth to, if you were trying to put in a big lap, gain some time on someone, can you actually loosen off your belts a bit so you can get all up on the wheel? Does that work?
I've never been man enough to try that, that's for sure. I don't know how much my 180 pounds will manipulate the handling of a 400-pound car, but there are those times, man, when you really got to manhandle these things, because there is some time to be had by getting real aggressive, but it also burns the tires off the things doing that too. So, I mean, down at the end of the race, when the money's on the line, you can really get up and race these things hard and make something happen. But I mean, it's such a unique style of driving. I mean, it's so easy to overdrive the things too. I mean, my experience in the GT3 cars, it's almost like the harder you drive, the faster you go. But in these things, there's time in that a little bit, but not for very long. So you can't be doing it at the start of races. You can't be doing it halfway through the races. You really got to wait until you get through that last pit stop, see where you're at, and figure out what kind of work you got ahead of you to get to the lead. But yeah, I mean, I think some of these guys probably did some crazy stuff back in the day, getting themselves up in the seat and up on the wheel, but not me.
I mean, it's certainly, if this goes any way the standard kind of NASCAR road course race goes, inevitably there will be well, you would be thinking there'd be a caution on the very last lap that will last about 25 minutes.
Yep.
So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, effectively, yeah, you just need to survive until that last lap, until it's the one-lap Super Bowl shootout.
Sometimes these crazy pieces of debris just have a way of finding them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I need to look up in the patent office to see if there is a patent for a debris cannon and it's registered somewhere down in Daytona Beach.
Yeah, they shoot it from race control and you can't see the debris, so we all just back and watch the end with bated breath.
The apparently in the next few months, or hopefully soon, as they like to say, iRacing will release a new damage model for the cars, and that means that cars will actually be able to lose, bits that, and they will stay on the racetrack, parts of the bumpers, the fenders, etc. No, and that then those debris cautions can be called by the race admins if they want, and also. In this last update of a couple of days ago, they added the green-white checker finally. So I don't know if we have a caution come the end of the race, we might have a green-white checker, and that is going to be absolute madness, of course. But yeah, those debris cautions right now have to be fantasy debris cautions. In the future, they will also be real if they want.
I think if they really want to add some realism to iRacing, I think if you're in a race session and you crash, I think you should be done for half the day, or at least a day, and then your father doesn't talk to you for the next 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the beginning, iRacing has this system that works with safety rating. Basically, it's a no-fault system, so when you have a crash with another car, both of you get a safety penalty, basically, and that's purely a number, etc. But in the early days of iRacing, they were thinking about charging very, very small fees as a way to replicate the fact that when you crash your car in a real race, it's not like on the road where someone is at fault and the other is not. You both pay the damage of your cars, as you see James Gata, going well. Some of these drivers are driving modifieds at this point more than cup cars. So basically, yeah, in the beginning, iRacing had this idea of making you pay for your damage, but then in the end, they thought, I think, and Dim of course fans as well there in the replay. They thought, well, no one is going to race because there are, after a while, you run out of money, or which is something that happens in real life as well,
Yeah, for sure. I think they would have quickly figured out as a business concept that wasn't going to work, because probably at least half the people that are on iRacing a lot are unemployed. But of course, I've been part of the sim racing community recently, so they've welcomed me with open arms. It's great fun. getting messages from people. Really enjoyable.
I do like the realism. I mean, having debris caution, white checkers, where iRacing's gone the last 5 or 8 years is incredible. Just sitting here watching this right now, it's almost like you're watching a real race. It's unbelievable. Not only is the track and the walls and everything so realistic, but you watch these guys driving their cars, and it's you can see what they're dealing with. You can see guys that are loose or guys that are tight, guys that are missing their marks, and you can tell these guys that are running around now basically with modifieds, they don't have any downforce, and they got a hard time getting their cars to turn. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I work on the other side of the fence from you guys. I am a track marshal, so I know the importance of not doing any further damage to the car, and how you see sometimes I've been told many times about some drivers, especially I work both as a road course, car racing marshal and as a bike motorcycling marshal, no? And many colleagues have told me many times about a rider falls, make this big fall, and he stays there in the gravel trap, and they are very concerned. I think maybe he's hurt, and then you go there and you see the guy crying because I don't have money to repair the bike, or this was the last bike my father said he was going to pay, and so I know the importance of not destroying your car, and it's always a bad feeling when you are a marshal and you do extra damage because of some, we've seen in the past, trying to get a car out of a gravel trap, with the, and then you tear away the front bumper or stuff like that. So yeah, and luckily iRacing went for the safety rating kind of method, because otherwise I would be broke already, considering how many times I crash. Oh, sideways the 86. It's a nice save by James Gutter. So despite his big damage, he's holding on, but disappointing, I would say, P25.
Well, give him a minute. I think with the amount of damage to the front end of that car there, it won't take long. Probably into here, he's going to auger into the back of the car in front and prove that Jim does in fact suck.
Well, he cut the corner there, and that I don't think is allowed, so that will be a slowdown penalty, as Pinkerton is in the pits for his mandatory stop.
Probably a good time for him to pit. I mean, Chin's pulled away at 10. He's got to get the pit stop out of the way and really get himself in a spot here where he can cut some laps, and hopefully Chin makes a mistake or runs into trouble with traffic.
Yeah, definitely. I think more than likely the car we're focusing on, and James Gutter here, if he hasn't already used his fast repair, which I'm almost positive he probably has, he should probably just pit and go home.
He's taking tires, I think, Pinkerton is. He's taking tires, so he's going for the tire change. And now he should be ready to go, just finishing the fueling. And here we go, as they run around the Porsche pace car. And he's out in some traffic as we see other drivers coming in. This is the Maple Leafs car. The number 34 coming in, some big damage, smashed front, as we have third place car there, becoming the fourth place car, because I don't know how, but Abate has been able to pass Bin despite all the damage, and also Pinkerton already making his move and moving up to P4, so not wasting any time. He knows he has to push quite a lot if he wants to stay close to Joshua Chin after the pit stops.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little bit fractious with the driving standards and the low parts of the road. Kind of trying to snake your way through traffic here is going to be a bit of a challenge.
It is absolutely, as Pinkerton then goes past Abate up to P3. Now his next car in front is Garrett Conrad, but he is 10 seconds ahead, so I think Garrett will pit before Pinkerton catches up to him. Now they are going past a lapped car as well. And now, of course, everything is in the hands of Joshua Chin. When is he going to pit? And I'm quite shocked that Christian Abate has been able to keep it in fourth place after that massive crash he had in the very beginning of the race.
Yeah, pretty stout effort by him there, managing to keep it on the seems that everyone's had some problems at some point. Even Pinkerton had a fairly big issue. Chip built up such a gap there. But still a fairly long way to go. Another 10 laps to go. And it's going to get probably even worse with 5 to go or so.
Nice pass there from Effner. He gets by Jones, who went a bit wide there, as we have a car making some maneuvers in the middle of the track. It's a lapped car. Hopefully everyone can get through. Certainly Effner and Jones have gone through, so good for them. Let's get a replay of what just happened. Justin Parker, I think, or Steve Lavender. I think it was Steve Lavender. You can see parking.
Daddy, how do you know how to do it so like this?
No, he didn't park. He went on the grass, then pulled on the left.
Oh yeah, doing some dirt tracking. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of looks like a dirt car. It's kind of state there as well. So
back with live pictures as we have Marquis Smith in the number 10 machine, followed closely by the Maple Leafs machine. As they brake hard. Oh, I think he lost the car, either some contact or he locked the rears, and now making some maneuvers. Gotta be careful not to beat yourself on these curves. He's back on the racing line as he's behind his, I would say, similar to a Miller Lite livery in front of him, but with full burn, of course, driven by two piano there. Very nice touch. Reminds me of the old days of the, Rusty Wallace Penske cars, more or less. When I love the Penske Blue NASCAR machine, and apparently Marquis Smith likes it a little bit less because he just hit the rear. Oh, there's a car stop there, and we have a massive crash.
Yeah, those guys just really tore all stuff up.
Massive hit.
Oh, and another, yeah. Wow.
Get a replay of that. Poor Marquis Smith hits the rear of the car in front of him and then finds this car stuck in the middle of the track there, impossible to avoid. And that was a big hit and a blown engine, which certainly will need a tow back to the pits as we catch the replay from another point of view. Behind the trees we go, and then we should see a car flipping. Oh wow, in the catch fence as well. That is something you don't see very often.
Might be care flight status there. If there is there a setting for that on iRacing?
Joshua Chin still out, still leading, and still pulling away from Conrad in second. Pinkerton is closing in on Conrad, but I think that their pit stop should be very close.
Pinkerton's cutting some really good lap times right. Gonna pick of Pinkerton there. I'm watching his lap times. He's catching Conrad at a rate more than Chin's pulling away from Conrad. So if they can get close, we might have a race here at the end.
That is absolutely what we want to see in these final few laps. This is really flown by, this race. Unsurprisingly, we had many cautions last time around with the Skip Barbers at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Also a controversial finish with a final restart that wasn't there, as Zachary Effner moving up to 5th position. And now I think he clipped the barriers because Aaron Bean has got a nice run on him, and he passed by Bean with ease just a few corners ago. Let's see how they deal with. No, now once again Effner is able to pull away from that slightly damaged number 20 Ford Mustang. So he's one driver with the new Ford, and as a big Ford fan myself, big thumbs up.
So Justin, when you drove here in the Acura, what did you consider to be the most challenging part of the circuit?
For me, it's probably what we just watched right there. That like triple apex left-hander. You come off the back straightaway where you've got a lot of speed right here coming into this corner, and then you just have to be very, very patient around the next left. It's very tight in there. Sometimes you get stuck behind somebody that's a little bit slower than you are, and there's not really a way to pass. But then, if you have a prototype behind you, they're they're a lot quicker through there, but there's not really anywhere for them to go. So they start to get impatient, want to dive into that right-hander at the end. But right where those hospitality tents are, that sort of triple apex left is always a little tricky because, you want to drive it fast, but you got to be patient because there's a lot of time to make up and a lot of time to lose. But, those last two corners are tricky too, especially that very last one coming onto the front straightaway. You really have to go hard through there to get a good run off, for lap times to get onto that front straightaway, but there's no margin for error. We see a lot of people have problems. And we saw Scott Dixon hit the wall, I think, in qualifying there last week. And, just trying to squeeze every last little bit of grip out of there and get that run down the straightaway. That's pretty tricky too.
Yeah, definitely pretty terrifying, those last couple of corners there in Detroit, especially some like you say, the Acuras, the GT3 car's got plenty of downforce. The prototype car through there is pretty scary. It's definitely one of those ones that you have to, well, I don't want to say man up necessarily, but I definitely scared myself plenty of times going through there. Awful.
We saw Conrad said for the pits, and I told you earlier about the difficulty of stopping your marks. That's exactly what happened, because he lost quite a bit of time trying to get exactly in his pit stall. Now these guys have the ability, they have this car is one of the cars that on iRacing has the animated pit crew, so it's an even easier way to get your marks right. But those pit guys, I think they were run over a couple of times by Conrad because he was having some big issues in getting into the right place. He also didn't take tires, got a splash of fuel and he started, so we will see how he will hold on. But of course, even if he tried to gamble by not changing tires, all the time was lost by trying to, most of the advantage was lost when he, had issues getting into his pit stall.
How's that gap looking up the front? Have you been keeping an eye on that gap at the front there? I seem to remember Pinkerton was doing 32s compared to Chin.
Oh, the safety car is out.
Oh, this changes everything.
Wow. I mean, eerie that we were talking about something like that, and it appears that, the debris
This is
cannon.
bad news for Chin.
The debris cannon may have been deployed.
Well, this is certainly something I was not expecting today. Pace car is out, and Joshua Chin has yet to pit, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how is he going to react, or maybe this caution will help him save a bit of fuel, and maybe he will not have to stop, because we know these cars have been limited to 90% of their fuel tank capacity, so they are very close to making it on fuel, but not quite. So we saw Conrad's stop was very, very quick. Just when he got into his pit stall, just after 1 second, he was pulling away already. So we shall see if Chin, of course, Chin, if he is able to save fuel and go to the end, he might have to, he will struggle with the tires because he won't have a chance to change them. So let's see what happens, as of course there will be wave arounds, because there are going to be many drivers that are in front of the leader. Many drivers will have to be sent to the back because of they are 1 or more laps down. There will be one lucky dog, if I am not mistaken. So let's see. It's going to be, I think, quite the long pace car, this one. So we might only have just a few laps left.
This is one of those special moments in a stock car race where, they're going to go green with a couple laps to go, and all the respect and racecraft and everything all the guys in the shop all week have been working on massaging the bodies of this car. All this is going to go out the window, and it's just going to be a free-for-all demolition derby at the end. It's basically how every road course green, white, checkered works in stock car racing, and it makes things exciting. But I mean, it's been important for everybody in this race to get themselves, in a position where if this were to happen, they can see the front, they can see the leader, because they'll probably just try to battering ram their way up there, as we see Chin coming in the pits right now under caution.
Yes, so he is in. Now, of course, the pit exit will be closed for him, so he's running the risk of starting way, way back in the pack. So let's see. Other drivers are following suit, Abate, Bean as well. other drivers are staying out. Hefner will move into second place, and Pinkerton will be your new leader, as they are all slowing down, trying to sort their positions out, and I'm guessing next time around the pits will be open for the cars that are one or more laps down. Pinkerton is in the lead, and he's in the lead, but look at this car. I think it has seen better days, as the Lucky Dog, see there, or no, I thought it was a Lucky Dog, that 31 car, but apparently not, because by the way he pushed on the gas pedal, it seemed like he was able to get one lap back, but no. Pinkerton is in the lead with, fresh tires and fuel to finish, but that car seems to be in bad shape.
Yeah, getting a quick note from race control here. Apparently the yellow was caused by a dumpster full of McLaren IndyCar Indy 500 merchandise was actually emptied onto the circuit. So that is why we're getting this debris caution. Why it's at Belle Island.
Well, it will make sense because that was the next race after Indy, no? So they were planning on selling it here to the fans that couldn't attend Indy, or to the Canadian fans coming, to the racetrack.
I'm guessing, yeah, it just got left over with all the rest of the trash.
If there's some high winds, which sometimes can happen around here, it can blow everything onto the racetrack. So sadly, it has not been modeled by iRacing, the McLaren merchandise on the track, but we trust the race control guys, and I think that the caution was a legit one.
So Justin, what's the key here with restarting on NASCAR? Is there a big issue with maintaining tire temp?
Well,
what I'm doing, to spin the rears.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to keep as much pressure and heat in the tires as I can. Honestly, I mean, for Pinkerton, the key here is just going to be getting a really good launch and a good restart, because a lot of the carnage here at the end of these races happens in the brake zones. Guys just outbrake themselves, they get rear axle hop and can't stop. And if I'm Pinkerton, I'm trying to get, a real good launch here and a good run. So Hefner, if he's got an idea to do something into turn 1 or into turn 3 down there, he's just not quite close enough to make it happen. Sometimes third, fourth, fifth can give second a real hard time. So I think the key here is just going to be getting a good launch and just trying to open up a little bit of space. But I don't see a lot of guys weaving too much, trying to keep much heat in their tires, so it could be kind of interesting once we get going here.
Oh, we are already ready to go. The pace car takes the hard right, to quote Mike Joy, and we are racing again. So lap 22 is where we take the restart. Garrett Conrad, you see, defending from Hefner. Chin came out in 5th place, so not as bad as I would have thought. Let's see if he's able to get back to the race lead in timely fashion.
Yeah, Hefner just needs to run that white line down where he thinks he's under any pressure.
A little bit wide there was Pinkerton, Conrad. Oh no, that's a lapped car. Oh, so they didn't wave around the lappers, which is...
He's out of the way now.
So
this is going to cause some serious issues here, I think, in the next couple of corners.
Yeah, so that's why we are already green, because they didn't, send the lapped cars in the back and give the wave around to the cars in front of the leader. And so, maybe a little bit of a gap there for Pinkerton, Conrad, and the rest, thanks to the lapped cars. You can see there Joshua Chin. He is 4.7 seconds back, and he's trying to push as hard as he can, but now of course he has to make his way through the traffic, and that is not going to be easy, as Pinkerton, despite his damage, is still holding on to first place. Lap 23 starting right now.
Yeah, I don't like where Chin's at. I think he's seen better days at this point, but Pinkerton's going to have to run some really good clean laps. And he was under some pressure from Conrad. Looks like these last couple of corners he was able to pull away, even without that front nose. Maybe you don't need that much downforce at this place, but Conrad's got a real nice, pretty car. He's got to not make any mistakes, keep the pressure on, see if he can't make something happen here.
So do you think that would actually be quite pleasant in comparison, Justin? Because I can imagine one thing with the NASCAR here, you're not going to have a huge amount of air going through the car. in the real world. So probably your feet are going to be on fire if you were actually driving a NASCAR here at Belle.
Yeah, I might be trying to kick a hole in the firewall and get. I mean, these cars, no matter what, are hot, and you're working so hard, especially here at the end of the race. The tires are all blowing off the things, and you're sliding around. You're trying to make something happen with 2 laps to go, and it's tough. But but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm sticking my left hand out the window and trying to scoop some air to my face because I mean, the thing is just a giant heat sink, and you got exhaust going just across the other side of the transmission tunnel, driving heat into the seat and heat into the floorboards and all that. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably want the downforce instead of the airflow, but Pinkerton's got a nice almost 2-second lead here, so he might be able to enjoy a little bit of a cool breeze.
So it looks like Chin's making some moves. He's up to third now. He's climbing up on second. I think it's maybe a insurmountable gap though at this point, depending on if Pinkerton to keep things on the straight and narrow.
Yes, only 2 laps left right now, so next time around the white flag will wave. You can see with a clean car. Of course, he had the possibility to pit, so if he had some damage, he repaired it with the faster pair. But he basically needs to get rid of Conrad very quickly, and that is not going to be easy. Oh wow, he is around. He saved it. Nice save from Conrad. He lost a lot of time there, but I thought for sure he was going to end up in the wall. It was all sorts of sideways. This gives Chin maybe a chance here on the backstretch, maybe at the braking zone there he can make the move and then push like a madman, because Pinkerton's car is destroyed. So if he can make the move here, he just might come close to his rival come the end of the next and final lap.
Wow. I mean, yeah, give that guy a flat brim hat. He backed that thing in like getting junior there.
Put a monster in that man's hands.
Absolutely.
Oh! There's a car in the wall there. It's a lapped car. Shin goes by. Another scary moment. And now keep an eye on the bottom right side of your screen. You can see the gap in real time. And
wow, was that team orders possibly? I mean, that looked very suspicious.
Yeah, as the white flag is in the air. So final lap of the race starting right now for Pinkerton, Shin, Conrad. These are the 3 guys right now occupying the podium spots. And look at the gap, absolutely calm down every time.
Over 2 seconds that lap.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And he had to make the move, and he had to go by that lap car that was parked in the fountain section. So 1.2 seconds now. Every couple of corners the gap goes down significantly. So what a fantastic way to end our race here, with a fantastic fight for the win. Joshua Shin making use of his car in good condition, fresh tires, and Pinkerton having the lack of the safety car, but with a very
get this done still.
Car.
I think he can still get this done potentially.
I might have spoke too soon. He's got some great pace right now.
He's got his 30 seconds to glory. Potentially this could be the greatest achievement of Pinkerton's life so far. He just has to hold on.
Oh man, they are so close. Shin was looking there. There are not many corners left.
I'm guessing these $5 he's going to smoke the brakes into the right-hander. Or maybe we'll see the bump and run.
He's going to have to play some real defense here.
At this point, yeah, you have to. You want to keep your job, you got to give the guy a nudge.
Oh! Wow, that was so close. And now the final run through the start-finish line. Andrew Pinkerton, Joshua Shin.
Too tight.
This is so close to call. Pinkerton wins.
Great job by Pinkerton.
Amazing
Major
race.
Pressure.
Wow, what an ending. And now everyone is celebrating by crashing into the wall in the first corner.
Reminiscent of trucks at Motorsport a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was a nice race.
Yeah, I was really thinking Chin was in a bad spot right there, but man, he proved today that he had more pace than just about anybody, but sometimes it takes more than that. Pinkerton drove a great last lap, made no mistakes, perfect defense, and held him off.
Amazing stuff, and I'm reading the comments in the chat. Absolutely, big thumbs up from the spectators. hopefully everyone enjoyed this fantastic race. I mean, Joshua Chin made the most of his bad situation. He almost pulled through with a race win. Given that he was penalized heavily by that pace car. As you can see, all the other drivers coming home. Sherwin van der Sloot after that problem earlier.
Any relation to Joran van der Sloot, do you think?
That's a good question.
Potentially.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Oh, look at that. That is on great sportsmanship. They are pushing Aaron Bean facing the wrong direction.
And it's a wonderful Alan Kowicki tribute here.
Yeah. They are
the reverse Polish victory lap.
Salute to the fans.
Salute to the fans. Yeah, wonderful stuff. I mean, I do wonder. I think I think this kind of worked for NASCAR at Belle Isle. I think heat racing here would probably be pretty good actually as well. Maybe not as long a race. And do some USAC heat racing at Belle Isle and NASCAR, even more carnage.
Yeah, great. I think we're living in a world right now where and I wouldn't be against seeing stock cars at the Cup level on a track like this. I think maybe this Dinner with Racers Continental Cup is going to set the tone for some real racing the next couple of years. Maybe the big wigs need to tune in and watch these races, give them some ideas.
Well, I know Roger Penske and Brian Fantz are they're big fans of Dinner with Racers, big fans of the show. I suspect they probably would have been watching today, and we'll have to see what comes of it. This would have been a good example for a great NASCAR product.
You see Pinkerton celebrating with I would say, can we call this a Polish victory lap? Or a variation of the Polish victory lap?
Yeah, it's a Pinkerton
for sure.
He's doing a Pinkerton.
Yeah. That is not easy, but he's pulling it off. And I know that car is already quite smashed, so if he hits the wall, we're not going to notice. But that's some good driving from him, and fully deserving of the race victory. And here we go with the final results. Andrew Pinkerton is the race winner in front of Joshua Chin. 0.154 over these two drivers. Then Garrett Conrad, Shane Burke, and Zachary Effner, Tony Jones, Ryan Cobb, Estin Fudel, Davis, Trask, Ben Cox, Sherwin van der Sloot, Dean Moll, John Roberts, Chad Dalton, Andy Trupiano in 15th, Aaron Bean, Christian Abate, a disappointing 17th, and in 18th place it's Mark Schmiding. And now we wait for the standings to roll over to the second part of the finishing order. Machinowski winner in Bristol, disappointingly only in 19th. Lane Walker, Andrew and Brandon Abbott in 21st and 22nd. Kyle Tucker, Justin Parker, and Ian Dimmock in 25th. 26th place for Paul Morgan. In 27th is Daniela Taubert. In 28th, Hunter Reeve in, too late, as we go to the final drivers there. It takes quite the coordination between us and Alex Simpson behind the camera. And it was mostly spot on today, sadly not for the results, but they were on the screen, so you can pause the video, go back and see the drivers that finished outside of the top 18, as we see some good burnouts there under this massive crowd here in Detroit. They certainly got their money's worth with a fantastic race, a totally legit caution with 5 to go, and a proper respect of the NASCAR rules with not giving wave arounds, lucky dogs, etc. And it worked. It worked. Fantastic win there, and I think, I want to ask you guys first, going with Justin, about this race. Your remarks, your thoughts about this race.
Yeah, I think it was very exciting. I mean, I think that winning, at the front of this race, these two right here, Pinkerton and Chin, I mean, those are the ones that kept their themselves as clean as possible. I was going to say kept their noses clean, but Pinkerton doesn't have a nose anymore. But I mean, they minimized what they hit. I think that Pinkerton made a pit stop at exactly the perfect time. Chin definitely had the pace. Maybe should have pitted a little bit earlier than he did. But I thought it was very exciting, very entertaining. I think we saw patience and precision play off, and And then we were all rewarded with a very, very special and rare Pinkerton victory lap in reverse. So all in all, a wonderful day.
Yeah, I think it worked out as being a fantastic race. Obviously, Chin and Pinkerton were in the class of the field today, and the race directors did a fantastic job of keeping this really on the nose, a spot on kind of last 5 laps NASCAR product. Exactly what the fans want to see. Maybe a little bit of a shame that there isn't a facility in iRacing where we can see some people fighting in the garage area and the paddock. That would have been good. Maybe that could be something that Steve Myers could implement in the future. But yeah, fantastic product. Maybe this could be a real signal of something that NASCAR could actually do in the future. And especially, it's really nice to see, Court Cup rivals, fierce rivals, Steve Lavender and Jim Gutter, and maybe a little bit of a shame Steve finishing in front of Jim there. Everyone at Court will be happy about that because Jim sucks.
Oh, that's some strong words from the commentary booth. We
Yeah,
will let
opinion
that
technically, but kind of fact as well.
we will let that sink into our viewers, and we will put attention on the calendar coming up. July the 13th, of course, IndyCar at Motorsport at night. On August the 10th, Williams F1 at Eldora. That is going to be quite unique. September 14th, NASCAR and GT3 multi-class race, location TBD. October 12th, Mazda MX-5 at Talladega, a 4-hour enduro. Don't want to miss that. November 9th, the Damage of Extravaganza, track to be decided. And rounding up the season on December 19th, it will be a fans' choice race. So we put a big responsibility on the fans of this series to pick a proper season finale for this fantastic championship. Location TBD.
Yeah, action-packed calendar coming up there from the zany characters at Dinner with Racers, and I'm sure many more chicken sandwich references to come.
Just before we round up the broadcast, I want to ask you guys, what would you do for the final, for the fans' choice race? What would you be your ideal way to finish the season for this championship? Which race and which cars and which track would you pick? For this fantastic championship.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that would be tough. I mean, they've basically picked as random selections as essentially possible everywhere. So I'm not sure. I mean, IndyCar at Motorsport at night is going to be an absolute disaster, I think. But yeah, we'll have to see. Williams F1 at Eldora, I really don't know how that's going to work. I mean, I really don't think they can get any better than what they've already chosen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, if I were to close my eyes and think a dream damage off scenario, that schedule they just put up there, I mean, I think it could be fun to try to go to the very smallest track that they have on iRacing. Maybe it's linear. I don't know what the smallest track they have is. Try to pack 100 cars on there and have a 500 lapper. See how that goes.
I believe there is the how about trophy trucks on the infield at Okayama, like the very first track that you run MX-5 on?
Oh yeah, the new cars that just came out. Absolutely. Yeah, I always have a dream, and I try to organize a championship, which has always got not a lot of appreciation for the racing community, but my dream is a multi-class race for the end of the season, a clean diesel enduro, multi-class with the Audi R18 and the Volkswagen Jetta TDI. For me, it will be a fantastic event to end the season. Maybe, a sunset or sunrise race around a proper racetrack. Okayama Short could certainly be one, or, the infield at Gateway, something like that. And what a better way to end the season with, multi-class with 2 cars that are so respectful of the of the environment and so close in speed, just like the Audi R18 and the Volkswagen Jetta. I don't know, maybe if the powers that be are listening, I'm pitching my idea for the end of the season race. I don't know.
I would tune in for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
One,
I mean,
or, you know, they
you know,
feel that
it
it
would
is
work
like that.
it would work a lot
And,
to
you know,
maybe
what, like,
counteracting some of
better
that
way to end the
anti-diesel
season with, you know,
propaganda that has
multi-class with two
been
cars
out there for the past
that are
couple of
so
years. You know.
respectful of the
Mm-hmm.
okay, we are getting closer to the end of the broadcast, so I would like to thank Justin Marks for being with us. I don't know, maybe if
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
And of course, Ryan Lewis also. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Ciao, ragazzi.
And from myself, Marco Barbanera, and everyone at Dinners with Racers and Apex Racing TV, as per usual, I wish you a good night and happy racing.
Thanks very much, everyone. Remember, Jim sucks.